Ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone. This is Joseph M. from Group 2 and we are here to introduce about the physical demands of different positions in FA Premier League soccer. First, let me show you the index. We will first talk about introduction, methods, results, and about the discussion. Let me briefly talk about our study. The management of the physical and physiological status of elite soccer players relies on detailed knowledge regarding the demands of performance. Time motion analysis is a useful method to quantify the physical demands of individual players during match play. A main advantage of the non-intrusive method is the production of data concerning durations, frequencies, and percentages of various modes of motion, and if pitch measurements are known, distances covered by the players may also be calculated. In turn, this provides crude measurements of energy expenditure through determining exercise to rest ratios and intensities of play as well as direct match involvement. And now, let me introduce you Taejong, and he will be talking about methods.
Thank you, Joseph. Now I'll tell you about method of this analysis through subject, procedures, and video. First is about subject. The data were collected on professional players from 3 positional groups representing various English FA Premier League clubs during the 2003 to 2004 season from publicly televised matches. Next is procedures. Individual players were observed and recorded using a player cam service, which is an interactive facility providing a separate camera focused solely upon a single player for a 15-minute period on 6 occasions throughout a 90-minute match, providing clear, unobstructed, and close images from an elevated position. Third is video analysis. The recorded player cam footage of the 55 players was filtered for purposeful movement using video analysis. Also, each observer was blind to all other observers. These were subsequently coded using the Bloomfield movement classification for time motion analysis. This method provides detail on locomotive and non-locomotive analysis. This method provides detail this movement as well as direction, intensity, and turning, swerving, and on-the-ball activity. The BMC has been shown to have a good inter-tester reliability strength of agreement for movement type, direction of movement, intensity of movement, and games-related activity, and the model strength of inter-observer agreement for turning. A summary of the method is presented in Table 1. Also, statistically, the 3 positional groups were compared using a series of Kruskal-Wallis age tests, where a significant position effect was found, and Mann-Whitney U tests were used to compare each pair of positions.
Thank you, Taejong. And now, let me call Ki-seok, and he will be further continuing on with results.
Thank you, Joseph. Now I'm gonna tell you about the result of physical demands of different positions that are defender, midfielder, and striker. With the result of purposeful movement period, we can know the percentage time spent performing purposeful movement, frequency of PM, mean PM or non-PM duration, and frequency of PMs over 15 seconds. Table 2 illustrates that position had a significant influence on the mean duration of PMs and frequency of PMs over 15 seconds. It revealed that the duration of PM performed by striker was significantly shorter than those performed by defender and midfielders, that striker performed significantly fewer PMs of over 15 seconds than defender and midfielders. Next is detail of purposeful movement. Table 3 shows the detail of the time motion analysis of PMs for the 55 players. Position had a significant influence on the percentage of time during PM spent standing still, running, sprinting, skipping, shuffling, and performing other timed movements. The other timed movement is jumping, landing, diving, and so on. The table 3 shows that there were no significant differences between the position, working, or jogging PM time, and also, each positional group had no significant influence on the proportion of PM time at low, medium, or very high intensity activity. However, there was a significant influence on position on the proportion of PM time high intensity activity, with the 27.3% by strikers being significantly greater than the 14.2% performed by midfielders. Table 4 and 5 shows the direction traveled within the analysis motion. The directions shown in Table 4 exclude the remaining arc directions. The Table 4 shows significant differences between the playing position for the percentage time of each PM spent moving directly backward, lateral left, and lateral right. Table 7 contains a profile of football activity. Only 4 individuals on the ball activities were significantly different between the position, pass long air with the right foot, pass long air with the head, pass short ground with the right foot, and receiving the ball on the chest.
Thank you, Gistok. And we will further continue on with discussion, and Youngkook will present.
Thank you, Joseph. And now I'm going to discuss about the discussion part with all of you. The aim of the present study was to identify and detail the physical demands of English FA Premier League soccer through a detailed time motion analysis of the purposeful movement. Significant differences were found between the 3 positional groups for time spent in various motions within PM, of a higher intensity than walking and jogging, with exception to time spent standing still. Defenders performed the highest amount of jogging, skipping, and shuffling movement, and spent a significantly less amount of time sprinting and running than the other positions. Defenders were also observed to perform significantly more diving with feet first, which may be related to attempt to intercept passes or block shots and crosses, rather than making tackles, as there were no differences seen in the number of tackles made by all positions. The midfielders were engaged in a significantly less amount of time standing still and shuffling, and the most time running and sprinting. This is supported by the previous findings of midfield players, covering the greatest overall distance during matches and time spent standing still. Furthermore, the lower levels of shuffling movements and high levels of position actions in midfielders. The strikers, who also had a high level of position actions and a similar amount of sprinting, but performed a significantly higher level of shuffling movements than midfielders, may reflect upon the different spatial and time demands of match play for these positions. Defenders and strikers may also need to be the physically strongest players, as they were found to perform the most physical contact at high intensity. In addition, strikers were also observed to have higher levels of stopping at high intensity, as well as swerving and slowing more rapidly. In similar respect, defenders should also have sufficient body strength in order to compete with the strikers. To this end, FA Premier League defenders and strikers have been found to be heavier and with higher BMI, although only slightly taller than midfielders. This was not a universal finding across 4 different European leagues and the differences. This would also indicate that the findings of this paper are only specific to the FA Premier League.
Thank you, Young-guk. And now, Hangil will further continue on discussion 2.
Thank you, Joseph. Now I'm going to continue the discussion. In terms of directions traveled, midfielders were also found to perform the most directly forward movements, with defenders engaged in the highest amount of backwards and lateral movements. In this respect, high frequencies of turns were made within match play with the majority between 0 degree to 90 degree. However, midfielders and strikers performed more turns of 270 degree to 360 degree. This could be due to efforts in close encounters to evade a marker or aspect of match play where players are required to face their own goal and the ball is transferred overhead. The amount of 90 degree to 180 degree turn is relatively evenly distributed, with all positions performing approximately between 90 and 100 in match play. Also, twice as many receives were made by the right foot than the left foot for all positions, which may be related to a lateral dominance in the right leg by most players. This appears to be typical in professional soccer, as more right-footed players than left-footed have been observed in studies of mixed-footedness. Unsurprisingly, strikers had the most shots and performed the most tricks, and midfielders dribbled more and indeed made more tackles than defenders.
Thank you, Hangil. Now I will be ending off with conclusion. In conclusion, this analysis has shown that less than half purposeful movement is performed in a forward direction. Players perform the different types of movement with a range of intensities, and players perform frequent turns during movement patterns. Significant differences exist between striker, midfield, and defending players, with defenders spending a significantly higher percentage PM time running and sprinting than other positions, but a significantly greater percentage PM time skipping than the other positions. Defenders also spend a significantly greater percentage PM time moving backwards than the other 2 positions. Midfielders perform significantly less turns during match play and strikers and defenders. These differences would indicate the players in different positions could benefit from more specific conditioning programs. For example, defenders and strikers could benefit from speed and agility type conditioning, whereas midfielders would benefit more from interval running over longer distances in accordance to the findings of the studies. This is all we have prepared, and thank you for listening.